Hey guys, it's Eric here with Sacred Forge Healing, here for your weekly reading for July 13th to the 20th, 2025. However, if you do not see it this week, or the week that this is airing, anytime that you run across that is when it's meant to find you. So these messages are still relevant in your life, so don't worry about that, Wipe the sweat away from your brow for that, right? So let's go ahead and let's check in with everything that's going on. There's a lot going on in the world right now. My heart does go out to those who have been affected by the flood, both in Texas and in North Carolina. I actually drove through that area while that storm was happening, and luckily was able to get through it all. But my heart does go out to all those who've been affected by it, and there's just a lot going on. Good and bad. Okay. But that is a duality consciousness thing. And if you've seen the video from last week, we're working on getting rid of the black and the white and move towards a spectrum of color, or gray. So let's take a deep breath all together. Just to let that go. So I already have a lot of angelic beings who I've invited here before I started recording here today. We have Michael here, who is protecting the space, and then a lot of other archangelic beings who are also here to bring forth this message. So one of the things that they're saying right now is the breath is going to be important, whether that is through doing breath work or just being mindful of that breath. So let's take one more deep breath together. So in the nose and out the mouth, just allowing it to flow, letting anything that does not belong here go. Let's take one more deep breath together and out. So the breath, as they're saying, is going to be very important for us moving forward. It's going to help us to calm down our nervous system, as well as to get grounded here in this space. So let's go ahead and see what the angels have for us this week. Remember that the angels will tell us, what we need to know, but they're not going to tell us exactly what we need to do. They're more like guidelines. Random quote. More like guidelines or advice. Remember, any advice that they do give, it is up to you to enact or not to enact upon it. So let's go ahead and let's pull some cards here just to get off the ground with this. What do we need to know for this week of the 13th through the 20th? So our underlying theme this week is going to be transformation. Okay, so this is what was actually at the bottom of the deck. That is what we're currently working through. And even as we go back through the reading for last week, that is what we're experiencing, and that's what we're working towards, is that that transformative quality of moving from one way of being to another, right? When we have the black and the white versus everything in between, when we can stop seeing it as being only those if ands, or one way or the other, right? Then we're able to see the infinite possibilities that do exist. And so what we have here going on this week, and this is again after having the 7/7 portal last week, this is like the reverberation of that connection of the heart. So if you've been having trouble with connecting with the heart space, that's really what we're moving towards, and basically what you're going to be pushed towards this week and moving forward. We're all moving more towards a space of the heart. And so that is going to be very, very important for us to know. So let's get into more of what the message is for this week. And so how we're going to be able to get towards that transformation, we have a few things. And seeing these cards, I'm already feeling it for myself as well. What we're all kind of working towards. So if you haven't been doing meditation practice, I'm telling on myself a little bit too, of not having a constant meditation practice, but also allowing yourself to get away with it. That's something that is coming up this week, is is this the week that you can say, okay, I'm going to at least do 5 minutes every morning as best I can? Or like, can I set 5 minutes aside every morning, just meditate and be in that space? Or do I just want to keep myself going in the same direction that I currently am? And so our first card here is composure. So we have that energy of meditation here, as you can kind of see with our card. You know, he's in this Zen posture, kind of finding balance within it all, right? Also, if you want to think about it, for some reason, I have Star Wars coming to the brain, being a young Padawan, where we're starting our journey in that meditational field, where we're saying, okay, I know how to do this. You know, I've learned, I've done it. I just don't do it regularly. This is the week where it's time to say, yes, I'm going to get in it, I'm going to do it. And so if I'm not getting in and doing it, I will tell myself next week. So, you know, hold me accountable if you guys do see this, where we're going to all start meditating. You know, that's what we really need to be doing, is setting our time aside to connect with the divine. And as we do that, our center card, kind of what's on our heart for this week. And as we start to connect in more of that meditational aspect of our being, we have inner child healing, right? Where we're holding that inner part of us who has either been through trauma, through being told they're lesser than, that they can't do something, even though they know they can, that they're worth less than who they are and what they are. Remember that we're all aspects of the divine. We are all a soul here having an experience. And so we are God. We are part of God. And so when we remember that, we're allowing ourselves to say, okay, you know, on the inner aspect of who I am, on my inner being, my soul self, I am worthy. I am one with God. I am one with everything. So these things that are in the path, they're there to teach me something. Now, as I sit here and look at them, I can see it for what it is and say, what are the lessons here? And work on healing that. Whether that's being through, you can go through a meditation as well, where you connect in with that inner child self and just give it love, whether it needs a hug, or, you know, maybe it wants to have a birthday that it's never had before. Maybe you really need to feel celebrated, and that's something that inner child self that's been trying to get out. Maybe it is crying and really wanting just to be heard. For some of you, this really does feel like the want for recognition, recognition for all the work that you've been doing, and you know, recognition of who can be around you, who's there to support you, to give you love. And, you know, that whole thing with the birthday, it honestly feels very applicable here. When was the last time that we allowed ourselves to celebrate our accomplishments, our another year of birth, our another year of life, I should say? When do we allow ourselves to celebrate who we are? And that is definitely part of what's coming up this week when it comes to that inner child healing. Can we celebrate what we've been through and where we've come from? And can we celebrate where we are now, right? You know, healing and working through those aspects of the past are important, but being here and celebrating who you have become, acknowledging the past and celebrating who you become, I feel like is the most important thing. So whether it's through meditating with that inner child, giving them the hug, the birthday cake, you know, allowing yourself to go roller skating because that's what you used to do when you were a kid and it brought you a lot of joy. You know, finding ways to really help and listen to them is going to be super, super important. So I'm going to pull 2 cards for this inner child healing. What are the aspects that we're working towards besides that giving of love and that giving of space for this inner, for my case, my inner Eric, the little boy inside of me, or for the little person inside of you. So we're being asked to take the blinders off. We have surrender, denial, and we have surrender, resentments. Okay, so I'm going to go through resentments first. It's what feels being pulled towards. There is part of the resentments is just being pulled along from, you know, being told exactly what you're supposed to do through life. where, you know, somebody else has made the decision for you, and that little you inside of that little person inside of you is like, no, but I want to go be doing this. This is what really brings me joy. And so we get really angry with those who try to keep us in that state. And so that's where our resentments do come from. It says, holding on to the resentments only poisons you. Try to forgive others for their shortcomings and keep moving forward towards positive situations in your life. Right? When it comes to this, it's saying, you know, you can look at it from a space of, hey, they were trying to help. This isn't what I agree with now, so I can decide to change here in my present. But, you know, holding them in that space of hatred or annoyance. I like annoyance better. But hatred does still feel applicable for some of you. Or fear, honestly, in some ways. As we're feeling into that. As you start letting go of that and start seeing it from, okay, they were trying to help, but it is in this moment presently. Like with the meditation where you can make a change. Right? What do you decide to do? Right? And so we also have to look at it from a perspective of, you know, I have to see it for what it is and not try to sugarcoat things too, right? So forgiving the resentments is going to be important, but also allowing yourself to fully see things is going to be helpful too. So it says, accept people and situations exactly as they are without denying the difficulties. Then you can see things clearly and make the best decision. So we're really trying to rip off the Band-Aid, or the blindfold in this case, to just see things of the past, since we're still talking about that inner child healing card. You know, we're still trying to see things in a clearer way. So maybe when you rip off the Band-Aid, there was something in your past, in your childhood per se, that it was really bad and you just didn't realize it because you didn't have that vantage point until now. And that's also where the surrender of the resentments to it can come up too, right? When we see it for what it was, and maybe it was a lot worse than we thought, say, okay, you know, how can I work with this? And, you know, at this point, I do need to say this, you know, if you need the help, please, you know, reach out to a therapist. These readings are not a substitution for that, but, you know, they can give you some guidance in this way, right, when it comes to a spiritual aspect of it. But if you do need help, please do reach out to those who can help you in a better way. But that is what we're currently working on. That's the heart of this week, is where we're looking at the things of the past and saying, okay, I can see it with fresh eyes. Was this really as bad as it was, or was it worse? Right? And for some of you, it's going to be like, oh, actually, it wasn't that bad. It was, this person was trying to push this on me, but I eventually said no. I learned from it, and I realized I was a lot stronger than I had given myself credit for. And so that's really, really applicable for a few of you. There feels like one particular person, interesting, that is saying, oh yeah, it really wasn't that bad, right? And I can let this go. This doesn't really need to be on my conscious anymore. And, you know, as you're healing this, be aware of how your energy shifts, right? There's a lot of ways to feel into the energy of your being, whether it being through breath, through body scan meditations. You know, when you close your eyes and once you get into that place of stillness, when it comes to the meditation, you know, you can start by feeling the body first and just see where there's tension or not. But then start feeling into the space around the body. What does it feel like? And as you start doing that, you might feel like, oh, there's something over here to my right, about, you know, 2 feet away for some reason. You know, that's what it's feeling like, where I got injured while playing kickball. And the person who did it just really went for it and was trying to hurt me. And I held it against them for a really long time. Of course, you know, that's never nice, but at this point, now that you've grown, is it really, really important to hold on to this? And it's when feeling into the energy around us, into our own energy field, that things like this can also pop up. And so the requirement is that stillness that exists. Okay, I hope this is all making sense to you. If you have questions, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll try to get back to you when I can. Or just send me a DM on Instagram or Facebook. ask me as many questions as you need to, and I'll do my best to help, right? So our challenge is to, okay, well, before I get into that, so they do want me to highlight another card that is from the bottom of our deck here, from our power surrender cards. We have surrender to your full power. And it is as we're going through and working with that meditation, that healing aspect within ourselves, that we're able to unleash this inner power that is all around us and is ours, right? This is that moment where we're calling that power back from when we were 4, where we got tripped and everyone laughed, where we were 6 years old, and I don't know, having to run around a soccer field and being slower than everyone else. Maybe they don't feel like they're worthy enough to be able to run with them, or there's so many different ways that this inner child healing can show up. And when we start working on looking at those things, it's allowing us to actually bring them forth to be healed and calling that power back to us. So it says your life is calling for you to step into your full power rather than playing it small. Surrender to your full power. And as we're moving closer and closer towards the Lionsgate portal, which is 8/8. I'm going to be hosting an event here in Charlotte at the Bag Lady. I'll have more info about that coming up soon. But that's going to be a Friday night, the 8/8 portal. And as we're moving towards that, we're also moving into the Leo season 2 at that point, where we're really being asked to honor that power within ourselves and realizing that when we speak, we roar. We are allowing that, allow our voice to reverberate as we start saying, and as we start saying, people will listen. Okay, so our last card here, kind of our challenge, is just to be on the lookout. We have signs and reminders, which, when it comes to this is a good card when it comes to looking for your angel numbers, your 222s, your 444s, 999s, 777s, all that stuff. Or all the synchronistic moments, when you do ask for a question. So, thank you, angels, for revealing to me what I need to know about this one person. And just, leaving it there and see what comes to you. Maybe you'll hear somebody talking that gives you insight on what this person is going through, and it doesn't even come from that person. It just... it might come from, just a random person out in life. And it's like, as you hear what they're saying, it's like, for some reason, this other person's coming to mind that you asked that question about and saying, oh, that's why this is going on, right? Pay attention to the signs and reminders, whether it be your dreams, angel numbers, music, just conversations out in the wider world where it just pops and says, hi, that's exactly what I was asking a question about. That's the information I needed. As well as it comes to animals, and there's a lot of ways that angels can speak through us and to us, as well as our guides and different beings and entities. Remember, use your discernment. When you call on the angels, you can add in higher frequency words. So thank you, angels of the purest love and light, for coming and revealing to me what I need to know. There's a lot of ways to cover that basis, but use your discernment when you do have those moments of saying, okay, is this, feel into the feeling of it. Does it feel like, oh my gosh, that was exactly what I needed to hear? How did, they brought it right to me. Pay attention to how it feels in your body. If it makes you feel tense and like this, say, thank you for coming. Thank you, angels of love and light, or purest love and light, for coming in and clearing this energy and bring me the message that I really do need. So we have a last card. Oh, goodness. To really round out our reading here today. Yes. No. Yes. That's the card. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we have, we actually have 2 cards technically. So both of them are very nature-esque. We have the 9 of Earth and the 3 of Earth. So it says, enjoy life's little luxuries, spending quiet time alone, which we have going on with our meditation. Remember, this is kind of our challenge, is to be aware, right? And, when it comes to our signs and reminders, being aware in meditation can also be a way that they come through to us. Maybe as you're meditating, they'll come through and say, this is something that we need to bring to your attention. Feel free to ask questions too to them, and they'll be able to answer. Just, when I have my QHHT clients, my quantum healing hypnosis technique clients, one of the big things that I tell them, we have 3 tips when it comes to this, and that's past life regression. Whenever I ask you a question, say the very first thing that comes to mind, and that's going to be the big thing for you guys to pay attention to, when it comes to listening and hearing. What is the very first impression that you get? But let's get back. They want me to continue on that. Our second tip is, when I ask you to visualize something, and say, for instance, you're going into a meditation and wanting to visualize, maybe your room, visualize it in as many details as possible, add color, add texture. What does it smell like? What is it? If you want to, you could do, what does it taste like? Maybe you have a croissant wherever you're going. That's important for somebody. Hit bring forth some messages for them. A croissant, interesting. But really looking on it and putting as much detail as possible. And as you're doing that, if you feel comfortable, and as you work towards this ability to meditate, maybe even recording what you're seeing, that way you have a recording of what you experience, and so that can change things too. All right, let's get back to our last 2 cards, because this has gone on a little longer than I had expected, but that is totally okay. So the 9 of Earth, we have enjoying life's little luxuries, spending quiet time alone, again meditating, and successful self-employment. Going on also with our 3 of Earth, it says the power of creativity, recognition of very high quality work, and being a team player. So for those of you who are wanting to step into that self-employment road, keep creative with it, really honoring your work and what it's worth. But I feel like the big thing here is to be creative. This is about life's abundance in a way. Let me do 1 card here. Oh no, okay. These cards are extra shiny, so they like to get this ring light here. But this is about that physical manifestation of what's trying to come through us. This is also, if you really looked at the cards, we have butterfly energy on both. And when you think of butterfly, it is about that transformation from the caterpillar to the butterfly. And sometimes those, as a caterpillar transforms, its body is dissolved to become the butterfly. So some of you might also be going through this really rough time. Again, reach out for help if you need it, to therapists, or if you would like a reading or a healing, please let me know. Check out my website, sacredforgehealing.com, for more information on that, or just reach out to me and I will get back to you. But we are all going through this chrysalis phase to become that butterfly, where we're all changing in vibration and changing into a new place for ourselves, a new space for us, a new version of us that is trying to come out. And being creative with it is going to be important. Remember, don't hold yourself down into a box just for some other people, but allow yourself to expand your creativity, your creative sense of making things. Just because one person says it has to be like this, it does not. Maybe it does when it comes to like surgery and all that stuff. Not a doctor. But when it comes to creating, there's no limits. So, as you're going through, and for those of you who are working towards that area of self-employment, what do you want to create? What feeds your soul? And that's going to be the big thing to ask yourself. And also challenge yourself to do, because if you never dream of it, how can you allow it to come to you? So remember, let me go over a brief thing of all of this, right? Meditate. We're working on meditation. We're working on healing our inner child, to get to the point where, we are giving them love. We're giving them what they need. Go have yourself a big birthday party if you really want. Give yourself cake. Honor yourself. Honor where you're at. See people for who they are. Allow the resentments to start to fade. For some of you, the resentments is quite heavy. And if you want to, there's a thing that's apparently popping up into my brain right now where you can grow a plant. Interesting. Grow a plant. And start putting love and attention to that plant. And as you give it love and nurturing, you're also giving yourself that. And there's another way, if you are giving it that, I'm censoring. Hold on. Let me bring it fully through. I don't know why I'm trying to censor this. As you give it the love and as it eventually wilts and fades, so do those resentments. That's another way that you can work with it in a physical, excuse me, as a physical representation to release those resentments. Our challenge is to be aware, keep your eyes open for signs, reminders, and the deeper insights that are trying to come through to you, whether that be animals, numbers, music, conversations, dreams, intuition. Keep your eyes open this week. And for those of you who are going into that self-employment phase, or growing into that business, be creative with what you really want. Explore, dream, and see signs or look for signs that are leading you in the right direction. My personal belief is whenever we're seeing signs, we're on the right path. And so it's just a confirmation for what we're doing is correct. If we stop seeing them, then it's like, okay, it's not necessarily, let me reevaluate. You can say, thank you, angels, for showing me a sign that I'm on the right path. Or thank you for showing me a sign towards the correct path for me. There's a lot of ways to work with them. And remember, the way that I work with angels is I believe they're always there. They want to help us, but we have to ask. So, as you're going forward this week, ask for help, ask for guidance, ask for healing. You can always ask for Archangel Raphael to come forward and bring that healing to you, going into meditation with Archangel Raphael and saying, thank you, Archangel Raphael, for taking me to my inner child, to the places inside of me that need healing and need help. Thank you for showing it to me in a gentle and easy manner, but also may it be deeply healing and cleansing. Working towards it in that direction. But just keep your eyes open, guys. I'm sending you so much love, and I will see you again next week. Our last thing. So if you guys are also interested, I'm hosting 2 events this week. I'm hosting a sound bath on Thursday, the 17th. Yes, the 17th from 7 to 8. It's a sound bath for Sacred Forge Healing. It's going to be at the Bag Lady in Charlotte. And then I'm also hosting a Archangel Zadkiel healing ceremony called Wings of Change, where we're going to be connecting with Archangel Zadkiel, the Violet Flame, bringing that through us, working on healing within us and transmuting these things. So it seems we're going to be doing some inner child healing through this process, and I'm super looking forward to it. So again, I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I will see you later. Bye for now.